We're getting ready for preseason game number 1, and we got to start talking about who's on the way up and who's on the way down, making their fortunes for this Kansas City Chiefs team. This is RGR Football. Welcome in, folks. Back on my walk this week. Going to take you around and got to talk about the ups and the downs, the overs and the unders. That's where I'm at today. And I want to start at a position that has me a little bit nervous. And that particularly is one guy named Hollywood Brown. And at this point, I know a lot of folks are fired up about it. I'm not particularly worried about the long term here. I just want to make sure that their caution, which is the way that I'm reading it right now, is completely warranted and deserved. I'm going to put the over-under right now at 25 yards in the preseason, and I'm taking the under. I don't know at this point that it's even worth Hollywood Brown playing this preseason. I think it may be just put him on the sideline, let him bring his foot back, let him get the reps in practice, but there's no reason to put him on a field against another team right now. And that's just an abundance of caution, really. I'm not trying to be alarmist, and I'm not like down on him. I just think that this is precarious right now, given the other situation that there's a lot more talk about this week, and that is Rasheed Rice. So point number 2 this week is Rasheed Rice and the fact that everybody's getting a little bit more tense about what this suspension is going to look like. Now, when it happened, I told you that I expect the NFL to hand down 8, maybe 6 weeks, and that it gets appealed and cut roughly in half. If they give him 6, I think he probably only serves 4, maybe even 3. That's my gut feeling. Now, I can't guarantee that that's going to happen, but I can tell you that I think that's fairly likely. Now, all of a sudden, we're getting reporting, quote unquote, from people who I think want to make it a whole lot bigger situation than it is, that are saying that this could be 8 or 10 or more, slightly above what I had originally thought, but not crazy. Not like, oh, I don't know what they're doing with this league, they're going to run into the ground. Not that bad. But there are people that run a certain website affiliated with NBC Sports that like to make mountains out of molehills. And I don't think that this is any more drastic now than it was the day that the decision was made on his legal standing. So try not to get too worked up about it, because I think they are prepared for him, Rasheed Rice, to miss a few games, but I don't think they're planning for an absolute disaster, which I think is important, because the situation would then leave you with both Rasheed Rice out and Hollywood out, and we're right back where we started last season. That's the bigger problem. The thing that I'm more concerned about is that you don't want to get back into that single-threadedness at the wide receiver position. And it's not a slight against Juju. That's not a lack of faith in Jalen Royals. It's not, putting a cold shower on what Tyquan Thornton's been able to do this preseason. All of those things are good, and you could get by winning a ball game or 2. But putting together a 6-game suspension run with those guys as your primaries behind Xavier Worthy, and obviously having to pepper Travis a whole lot more than you want to, that's not the optimal solution right here. What they need to be able to do is run the ball better, to have play action passing be more effective, so that you're not putting everything into Mahomes and Kelce's hands initially and trying to, once again, rush Xavier into this early evolution. Now, that said, if you are to do these 2 things and you rest Hollywood through the preseason and you don't expose him to more injury by keeping him on the field when you don't really need him, and there's not a whole lot of point in the preseason, and you get a suspension that's smaller or reduced after appeal, which we may not even hear about it until it's post-appeal, then you buy yourselves a couple of weeks where you have a path you can get through, but you don't have to do anything super outlandish. And that's really probably the bigger goal, is to do something that you know you can deal with. and have a plan for, and that is Xavier and one of the other two. So Hollywood, the first few weeks. Is Hollywood going to play 14 straight games? Is he going to play a 20-game season? Probably not. He's going to miss a game here or there, is my guess. If Hollywood plays, of the 17 regular season games, if he plays 14 of them, I think that's about my expectation. He'll get bumped and bruised a little bit, but as long as you can get that volume out of him, and it happens that he's on the field when Rasheed Rice cannot be, then you're okay. And you're going to be okay. And you're going to be able to get everything done that you need to in the pass game by not having to overemphasize Travis. And that's the next problem. The over-under on 2.5 tight ends catching passes in the first half of the season. I'm taking the under. I don't care how good Robert Tonyan's been in practice. It is difficult to see him walking into this offense and actually putting up numbers. I think it's going to be a Travis and Noah show, like it's been, like we expect, without much variation. And it's because, although Wiley was able to get back on a practice field, I don't know that he's ready to actually contribute. And my guy, Brenning Sewell, who I do think still has a future, I think he's destined for IR because it lets them keep him with zero risk, with zero trauma to his evolution, which admittedly, a lot of teams, obviously he got to the UDFA stage. A lot of teams didn't have faith that he could be on their roster. I am now starting to feel like, after a couple of conversations with people that I trust, that most of that was down to this ability to stay healthy that was called into question. So if that's the case, then we're seeing what people were worried about. And if he can overcome it, then we should be good. But the tight end position is a little bit nerve-wracking, for me right now, in trying not to overemphasize Kelce. And that brings me to the opposite side. The over-under of this team losing a ball game on the backs of the linebackers is starting to make me nervous. I know a lot of folks are trying to stay calm about Drew Tranquil. It's back, and that always makes me nervous. The fact that he started camp is a good sign, so maybe he'll get back, and it's nothing we have to continually worry about. But it is definitely something to keep on in the back of your mind as a worry. And I've been trying to stay on the positive side. That's why you've been hearing me talk more about Jeff Bassa, even though some of the folks that see him every day are not convinced that he's ready to actually contribute. Maybe that's true, and I'm not here to say that Matt Derrick or anybody else is wrong. Matt's pretty adamant that Jack Cochran is the 4 at the linebacker level. And with Drew Tranquil out, that means that he's going to be on the field some. I have a problem with that. That is not a situation that I think is sustainable at the second level of the defense. It's just the truth. And as I'm walking around, it hits me a little bit too that this is all early. This is all coming together, and there are things that can change. But if Jack Cochran is on the field for you rather than Drew Tranquil, that's more than your average drop-off in my mind. And that's what I think we have to guard against and keep our expectations in line with that. That means, once again, that if your second level is exposed, let's call it, God forbid you have an injury or Nick Bolton, tweaks his elbow again or something, now you're allowing first downs at a worse clip, at a clip that makes you nervous and allows teams to put up points and, more importantly, to string drives together and keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. That's a problem. So then that turns around and puts pressure back on the offense and Patrick to really exploit what they get on defense so that they can score quickly. And that's where I think things start to go badly. We're going to see Josh Simmons, this first game. I think I would like to see him for a quarter. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I'd like to see him and Kingsley together for a good run. Way more than I want to see Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. I could see, if they go 3 and out on the first drive of the offense, I'm okay if Patrick doesn't come back in the game. If they run a scoring drive of 8 plays, get him the hell out of there. You don't need him. You need to see other players, and you need to keep him protected. That's the bottom line. And from where I'm standing today, that's probably the most important thing is get through this and don't put that stress on Patrick Mahomes. Make sure that you're giving him everything he needs to get his job done for the season, not for the preseason. It's just not that important. So that's where I'm at today. I'm going to go do another lap because the smoke is killing me today. There's a lot of fires in the west. So if you're in Idaho or somewhere else, Arizona, and you're under fire watch, be careful. Take care of yourselves. I appreciate you guys being here. Like, sub, hit the bell. You can get the gear in the store. Help us out there. We got a lot of things coming for you this season. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Have a good one. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.